I am a first year PhD student, or second year PhD student now, at St. Louis University, studying behavioral science and health education, with my mentor, Dr. Juliet. And I would love to welcome you all to Light Festival. I hope you guys were able to join the introduction, the speaker this morning, before this session. I hope you guys had a great time. Dr. Mati is amazing. But I do have the pleasure of introducing Calvin King. I'll go ahead and spotlight. So, Calvin King is an African-American spoken word and slam poet from Houston, Texas. King heavily focuses on identity, optimism, and succeeding against the challenges of life. King started his career as a slam poet back in 2014, so almost going on a decade, when he got the lowest in all of the Space City Slam series. But since then, he would go on to become one of the 4 longest reigning members of writers in the School Meta4Houston Youth Poetry Slam from 2019 to 2021. So don't let your downfalls determine your future. And an inaugural writer in the school's Emerging Writers Fellowship. So without further ado, Calvin King, are you ready?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so
All
much, ma'am. Okay, so I remember I got the well, first I should probably say hello, everybody. Oh man, I have a large video of myself and I have a small video of myself. Now I got to figure out how to not have, yes, okay, thank goodness, that was too much me that I was seeing. I got the breakdown of how everything, usually goes and whatnot, but I would like to, I think I would like to start out with this mentor text. The mentor text, of course, is a poem, and it'll be a poem by me. So once I do the poem, we'll get into the main conversation, as well as getting you guys started on writing. Okay, so first, I would like to thank everybody for showing up today. It's been it's been a rough couple of months, but I do have this testimonial that I would like to share with the Congra, with my family. At about the age of 6 was when I first saw the light as the TV screen shined thy holiest of men into my living room. I was asked to let this deity into my heart and allow him to wash away all my sins. His name is strength to us believers, but I've been taught that seeing is indeed believing. But he is felt. He is in the book of John, the holy, good book of John Cena. You can't see me. All my life, I've been the undersized, the underrated, a professional underdog. Under the tutelage of the wrestling god, John Cena, I became a follower. I walked in his steps. John Cena instilled in me back in 2005 when he turned rap to gospel like water to wine. His holy album, the phrase "it's gon' be what it's gon' be" is universally interpreted as "let go and let John." Cena is in the business of blessings and curses, and all of his matches are a parable. I remember bending to the will of the bully at the English Oaks apartment until one day I referred to Book of John, chapter, United States Championship, verse 2015, and turned the entire apartment complex into my own arena. Took 2 hits just to give one, to make John proud, to make me proud. That day, followed by many, I learned it's not enough to just pray, but you must never be prayed. And if you turn your scripture to chapter, I quit match, verse 2009. I was put in the longest headlock ever, unsure of which way was up, which way was down, but I did know I was down and out. I'm still learning to fall and rise within the same motion. Apostle John taught me to take the clothesline, shake the ring rust off, and never, ever give up, because no weapon formed against my German suplex shall prosper. But you see, some matches got too disastrous for the ring, so they spilled into my backstage. But bear with me. Can I get an amen in the chat if you always felt like your own #1 contender? Can I get an amen in the chat if you never felt like a world champion, felt like the world turned heel on you, felt like you were climbing your own ladder just to be knocked off, felt like you were wrestling a super heavyweight only to know that you were out of your league? Yes, Lord. Can I get an amen? For years, Cena had to bear the nail and cross injustice of bloodthirsty crowds, had stones cast towards him. For John so loved the world, he gave his only begotten body. That's why I get so disgusted when someone calls wrestling fake, when it gave me the strength to share my story today. I now stand on victories I gained from throwing my doubts over the top rope. And if you have a problem with how I gain solace in my serenity, that's fine, because you can't see me anyways. All right, so it's the mentor text, the poem, the book of John. So, right, outside of, the title of this workshop being called Wrestling with Esteem, which cleverly, or that's too much, but I mainly did it because, like, the initials is WWE, and that would be like a red herring. But also, as far as like light is concerned, most of my life has been a very strong battle with my own esteem. From the age of 6, which is around the time that this poem starts, I was in a primarily Hispanic neighborhood, and like that's fine, right? However, it gets tricky once you're the only set of Black children. There's only one other Black kid, which is my younger brother. And then everybody else starts noticing it, and you get to be treated differently by the other kids in the apartment. Then it stretches out to the other kids in the school. And even though there are other Black children at the school, there's still ways that you are picked out of the crowd as opposed to them. You're in trouble a little bit more than they are, despite not doing as much or not doing anything as severe. And then, with the way that I talk, the way that I act, a lot of the interests that I hold usually gets seen as like, different or weird, which is fine until people start noticing it in a negative light. And now, and once I move out of the primarily Hispanic, schools from elementary and middle school, and I leave all of that, like I leave the Spring Branch area and I come to the HISD area, and I come to at the time it was a prison to pipeline school, but thankfully it improved, which I'm so happy to see. I ended up getting another sort of culture shock because, I'm not fitting in with all the other Black children as much as I thought I would. And at this point, I'm starting to question, like, how much of myself should I start sharing? How much of myself is even worthy of being shared? And, at this point, my self-esteem is still taking hits after hits of not being accepted, and once I start feeling unaccepted, anxiety starts to creep in. Will I ever have, friends that I can, share all these interests with? Who am I going to talk about wrestling with? Because at this point, it's just me online finding wrestling communities. Who am I going to share, other interests with? Without it being seen as corny or too white or too Black. And then it even bleeds into high school, and even though now that I'm 23 and I've reached college, there's still been bits of anxiety that have plagued me because I've been worried about not just not fitting in, and not just being accepted, but then it starts to go into, well, what about when I go into the workforce? What about the papers that I turn in for classes and whatnot? Another way that my anxiety took a really big hit, which was previously mentioned in my introduction. So in 2014, let me just see the time. Okay, good. In 2014, I started my journey in the Space City Slam series, which is a youth poetry slam here in Houston, Texas. Uh, and the way that the slam series goes is that in 2014, it started out, you just become you win top 3 spots in the prelim, and then you go on to try and become one of the top 6 poets in the Grand Slam. In 2014, I tried out for the very first time, and I failed massively, because usually when they score these poetry slams on a scale of 0 to 30, they never try to give anything lower than a 20, because we're all teenagers, and they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or make them feel discouraged. I did so poorly that I got an 8.3, and that was 9 years ago. And that score has yet to be broken. Nobody has scored lower. And that did discourage me. I mean, granted, I knew I did pretty bad, but I didn't think I did that bad. But despite that, I just kept going. I returned for another prelim, another one. One prelim became a whole nother season. 2015. They ended up throwing in a semifinal where you had to be in the top 5, and then you move on to the Grand Slam where you have to be in the top 6. And in 2015, I very nearly made it. I was in 7th place when I needed to be in the top 6. That was another blow, but I still tried to use it as ammunition, like, hey, I almost made it. Therefore, if I just keep going on this trajectory, then next year I can do it. I can do it. 2016, made it all the way to the Grand Slam again. I failed again. And at this point, I was ready to give up, because this was 3 tries. I mean, at this point, I don't know if anybody had ever failed this many times. So I just thought, man, like I should just give up. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to lose anymore. That quickly subsided, just because I just thought, maybe I should try it again and see, maybe the 4th time is a charm. I tried for the 4th time in 2017. I didn't even make it to the Grand Slam. I only made it to the semifinals. I was still feeling that way again, but I thought, okay, I have only 2 more tries, because the Slam series goes from ages 13 to 19. So I still have a little bit more time left, Tried in 2018, and 2018 is one of the hardest years of my life, because that was around the time I graduated high school. And then graduating high school was a bit of a chore. I wasn't doing too well. And not only did I, again, only make it to the semifinals, and I didn't even make it to the Grand Slam, but I had a really hard breakup. And at this point, my self-esteem was at an all-time low. I was unsure of, like, how am I going to feel any better about myself if I'm taking all of these losses? But the things that helped me were the things that I loved. I tried my best to, to write it out, to enjoy more things, as opposed to looking towards all the negatives that were happening in my life. And while I'm not saying, you just got to look at things from a positive perspective, or I'm not trying to, I think there's still merit in finding, the things that you enjoy and getting the joy out of those things. When I first moved into college, I moved into the dorms. I wasn't all that good at socializing. I became a hermit in some cases, but I decided, oh, you know what? I'm gonna try for this pageant that's happening for the freshmen, and it's a talent show pageant, so I can do some poems. I did pretty good. I got 2nd place. So around this time, I'm starting to feel better about myself. And then a few months later, the Space City Slam series is happening again. And while I'm still scared, and I still have these anxieties, like, I've failed 5 times. I don't know if this sixth time is going to work. I don't know if they want to hear me anymore. That was a big anxiety of mine. Do they even want to hear me anymore? Because, they've heard me for, 4 years at this point. At some point they gotta be like, hey, Calvin, shut up. I don't want to hear this anymore. But despite that, because, poetry is something that I love and I treasure very deeply, and it was a comfort for me. I decided I got to try this because I still love this. So I get in, I make it past the prelim, I make it past the semifinals, and I even got a 30 for one of my poems, which is the highest score you can get. That was the first time that ever happened. And 1 year on from the really hard breakup, and on my very last try, I finally made it on the team. And things were moving along better. And now that's not to say that all of my problems went away and I was cured. There were still even more anxieties. Am I worthy of this? Is this my spot to have? But like I said, I found joys in just remembering I'm doing this because I love this. I found myself in writing, and I can continue to hold myself in writing. Found my joys in enjoying wrestling, watching wrestling, being a fan. Found my joys in, just all of the good things that life has to offer. And like I said, even though, things are a lot better for me now, at the age of 23, there are still a lot more worries. But I try my best to, enjoy my life, to tell myself about how not just things could be worse, but things are so much better because I've worked so hard for them to be better. But enough about my struggles and whatnot. I would like to get us to the poems that I would like for us to get on, right? So John Cena is a big inspiration for me. I think he's just the man that I would like to be, he's so multi-talented. He's an actor now. He's wrestled. He's had so many great matches. Don't even get me started on that. He had a rap album in 2005, and he was doing like little baby numbers, which is crazy in 2005. And I look to him for inspiration, just because, at some point he was about to be fired from wrestling, because he had a really big opportunity. He squandered it. And by the end of the year, they were saying, hey, you got to do something or we're going to let you go. And this is already after the fact that he failed at being a football player. He failed at being a professional bodybuilder. So I take from him the inspiration of never giving up. And also I just like him a lot. He's great. So even though when I first wrote this poem in 2019, originally the prompt I was given was write about religion. And because I don't really write about religion all that often, I made it into a bit of a joke. Not that I find religion as a joke, but like I needed to. This was my very first day of practice with Meta4Houston, and I wanted to make a good impression. So I was like, well, I don't really write about religion all that often. So, John Cena. John has there's a biblical name in John. So I'm going to write this as a joke until I started actually getting into it. But I guess it can actually be considered as an ode. I am writing towards a subject that I share great fondness of. So I would like, if you guys are still here with me, you guys have pen, paper, or some sort of writing utensil, I would like for us to start on our odes. And I think a really good place to start when you're writing an ode is to think about something that you would defend to the ends of the earth. That, like, for instance, I would defend John Cena to the ends of the earth. Always. I would defend mint chocolate chip. I don't care what anybody has to say about it. Mint chocolate chip is good. It's great. I with Kendrick Lamar's music, defend it to the ends of the earth. And once you start thinking about these things that you hold in high regard, that would be the best place to start. And a caveat that I would like, for you to take on, I would like for you to start with ode to, and then the thing or the person that you'll be writing this ode to. And another portion of another tip that could help is like figuring out ways, figuring out what are the different things and what are the different things about this thing that you like, like for mint chocolate chip ice cream, I like the color and the texture, or I like the color and the texture as compared to many other ice creams, so that's just my bit of help to get you started on writing the ode. Usually it's 14 lines. My poem, even though it can be considered an ode, is way longer than 14 lines. I think, depending on how often you write, I think 14 lines would be pretty good if you're, if you don't write that often. So yeah, that's how I think. That's my poem to you guys, as well as like that's the structure you guys should take at this time at least. Let's see the time. Cool. Okay. Actually, I would like to ask some of the people in the chat let's see the people in the chat. What are things that you guys like would defend to the earth? Like, or defend to the ends of the earth? Like, you guys can answer in the chat. I wonder if you guys can like come on the, or unmute yourselves to like say what it is you would defend to the earth or ends of the earth. Is that or I wonder if there, I don't think a poll would be like that. It doesn't matter. But God and nature, cool. What aspect, if you don't mind me asking, or like what about it? What about God and nature? Do you mean like God and nature as like two separate things? Are they linked together for you? Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you for sharing that. Oh yeah, okay. Anybody else like what they act? That is true, right? But anybody else like something might help? Ah, okay. Do you mean well? In what way do you mean? As far as like your health, or not? What way do you mean? Like, do you mean like nobody can talk you into doing anything with your health that you don't want to, or nice. That actually, yeah, that is true. You're a fan always. I especially like the family part, just because no matter how upset anybody in my family makes me, oh, no matter how upset anybody in my family makes me, they're my family, and I'll defend them. I get that. And I love how different, I love the different dynamics of families. And they like nobody will be my mother will always be on me, but she will still ensure me that she loves me, but she'll still let me know if I'm messing up out here, thankfully, at least. Although I think, you know what, while you guys are writing, I'll still try and interact, but I will also try and write some sort of an ode. Birthing people. They have hives. Yes. Okay, isn't it that's the strangest thing ever, that there are still like some medical textbooks, or there are some medical professionals that are saying, oh yeah, Black people can't feel, pain like everybody else. So that's what's killing like these Black people that are giving birth. And that's such a barbaric way of thinking, and it's such an ignorant way of thinking. And that's a whole population of people not being born due to, frankly, archaic ways of thinking. And not even just archaic, but like scary ways of thinking. It's absolutely terrifying. What would I actually, another question to get you guys to give you guys some ideas, unpopular musical opinions. I think a portion of why I decided to write about John Cena is because even though it's been shown that like wrestling isn't fake, and it's fake in like the hype and all that, like, oh, who's gonna win? They already know who's gonna win. And it's scripted. It's like a movie. It's like a TV show. There's still people that say, oh, it's fake. They don't really hurt each other, even though like, they do get injured. I still saw it as an unpopular opinion to be a wrestling fan, just because, usually when I tell people that I like wrestling a lot and I've liked it for basically my whole life, oh, do you know it's fake? No, I don't. I really think it's actually happening. But I think unpopular opinions are the best source of writing. So, and I think since music is so subjective, I was wondering, what are some unpopular musical opinions that you guys have? I'm trying to think of like an artist that
What about Kanye?
okay, so I have a strange relationship. Well, not strange. So like, it's weird. I love tea. I love tea so much. I don't get people that don't like tea. A lot of people have told me that I look like Kanye, which always makes me feel so weird. Or at least younger Kanye. And like for a very long time, the song Ghost Town by Kanye was my favorite song in the entire world. Like there was a point in my life where I could think about the song and I would actually start to get teary-eyed. Somebody sang the song to me once to let me know about it. And like I started getting teary-eyed. But he's so irresponsible, and I can't listen to him anymore. The whole, oh, George Floyd died of fentanyl thing. I just was like, nah, bro, I can't. Anytime I think about listening to Ghost Town, I hear that instead. And now I don't get teary-eyed thinking about it. And I just can't. What's even worse is the fact that like Ghost Town will always be linked to when I won the Grand Slam. And up until at this very point in my life, winning a spot on Meta4Houston is the greatest moment of my life, because it was years of struggle and hard work. And that song will always be the song that I think of, because I was listening to that song a bunch around that time. And I just, deep down inside, I do truly enjoy his music. But I don't know, man. After the whole he died of fentanyl thing, man, that grossed me out and I can't do it. I don't know. How do you feel about Kanye?
How do I feel about Kanye?
Yes.
I don't think I have that great of an opinion for Kanye, because I don't really listen to his music since old Kanye.
Yeah.
So if anyone listens to him now, do you think that he is, sharing a message at all? Do you think that his writing style is nice and creative?
Also, I saw somebody mention Frank Ocean in the chat. Yeah, Frank, Channel Orange. I love Blonde. Channel Orange is. I wish I was the age. I wish I was a proper age to actually enjoy Frank Ocean when he dropped Channel Orange, because I think I was 11 or 12 when that happened. Uh, but wow, I'm so angry that I just started recently, like as of a few years ago, realizing just how amazing Frank Ocean is. Like, for the person, let's see, for the person that mentioned Frank Ocean, what was your favorite song off of Channel Orange?
Yes, hi everyone. Hi Calvin. Yeah, my favorite, yeah, I think this is a great exercise because it kind of puts you in the headspace of sharing things that might be popular or unpopular. But I love this song called Sweet Life. And if anyone has the chance to listen to it, it just kind of it provides a lot of escapism for me. I was going through a lot during that time. So that will always have a special place in my heart.
Wait, also, did you like Blonde as well? Or like, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer Channel Orange because of the context of it?
I think so. Yeah, I definitely think I prefer Channel Orange just because I was, I guess, a little bit younger then, and I felt like I could really relate to some of the things that he was saying. We're kind of around the same age, so Blonde was good too. Don't get me wrong, but I like just really love Channel Orange.
Okay, that makes sense. Man, now I want to listen to Channel Orange again because I remember when I first started actually listening to Channel Orange, like putting my mind to it. What songs that I started out with Pink Matter, Pilot Jones, and Forrest Gump. Um, and it was 2015, and I remember being like so entrapped in Frank Ocean. I couldn't believe that somebody was actually making music like this.
Yeah, for me, like during that time, I think I started listening to Frank Ocean. When Tyler the Creator and Odd Future like came on the scene. So I guess 2009, 2010, around like the Nova Kane time and everything. It was just like a super duper like Odd Future plus Frank Ocean was just like I've never heard anything like this. And also I'm a humongous Kanye West fan as well. I think Late Registration is probably like the best rap album ever. But now I have mixed feelings about his recent antics, of course. But
Yeah.
Frank Ocean has been very pivotal, and also Blonde came out on my birthday, on my 21st birthday. So it was like it's connected to me like forever. So yeah.
I wanted to ask everyone, thank you so much, Roderick, for sharing. I wanted to ask everyone, what one song do you listen to help you get through any battles that you have, to help you, like, what's your inspiration? As for Calvin, he thinks of John Cena, to help him get through his challenges. He'd never give up. What song do you guys listen to help you never give up and inspires you to keep going? I know for me, I always listen to Closer by, I don't know how to pronounce her name. I think it's Joe Pele or something like that. It's basically saying that you're closer to your dreams and I'm reaching higher and higher, even though I sometimes feel like I'm stagnant or I'm not going anywhere, I'm discouraged. I listen to Closer. And Cleo Soul, yes, she's amazing as well. So what songs, you can put it in the chat or you can share with us and turn on your mics as well. And maybe somebody in the you're helping someone to create a new playlist for themselves as well, like an inspirational playlist.
Oh, what's this? Let me read this. La Brea by Alex Isley and Blue Dreams by, I wonder is Janae Eiko doing music still? Actually, I'm gonna have to, I'll screenshot this once everybody puts their song in there, just cause. Yo. Actually, somebody had mentioned Coldplay. When I was like 5 or 6, my parents showed me the song Fix You by Coldplay. That's a very inspirational song. Yeah, that's a banger right there. Yeah, that's a banger right there. Nice. She has such a unique voice, Sia does. Also, wait, which one? Fix You by Coldplay. And you said Sia, cool. Cool.
So Calvin, I have a few questions for you. What is one word to describe poetry, and why does it matter for healing?
I would say redemption. The reason why, redemption, or the reason why poetry, wait, do you mean like why does my one word matter for healing, or why does poetry matter for healing?
Both.
So poetry matters so much for healing to me because as someone that grew up with pretty young parents, they still subscribed under the belief that, oh, you're a man, you can't cry, you got to bottle all that stuff in. And so I just took that stuff to heart for a very long time. But once I found poetry in July of 2013, I found a way to let all this stuff out. And I found my redemption through poetry. And redemption matters so much for me because I feel like, a challenge or a threat to anxiety is, feeling like you are unredeemable when you fail or when you mess up. And because I was able to find that, or to bring that to myself, it matters so much for my health and for my healing.
Thank you. So who do you lean on or learn from throughout the process of writing poetry? I know that you've had, your many years of downfalls, but who do you think that you learned, like you leaned on to keep you going, other than John Cena?
Understandable. So my two poetry coaches, Lois Gaia and Outspoken Being. I had known like Outspoken Being was the person that came to my middle school in the summer in 2013. And I remember he just sat there in a chair. Like, I remember he was just, never mind, I don't have socks on. But but he came there and he sat in the chair. And I remember he just looked at us and we all looked at him. And then he performed spoken word for the very first time. And I thought it was so weird, but I thought, man, that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And he is amazing. He's the best. And I love him so very much. And, even though there were times I didn't make the team, if I had a question, he was going to answer for me. And I remember when I did finally make the team, there's a picture of it somewhere. It's a still of us two hugging. And I remember when he whispered, "I'm so proud of you." I nearly crumbled to my knees again because, I knew it was true. And Lois Gaia, she was the woman that gave us the prompt, hey, write about religion. And she worked on the Book of John poem with me. She worked on so many things with me. She was one of the people that helped me to realize, like, hey, stop holding all that stuff in. And I believe with her guidance, I was able to, to write more and be less afraid of trying new things to write. And of course, the three lovely ladies that I was on Meta4Houston with, that I wrote a lot of my poems with, gave me ideas. We bounced ideas off of each other. These are my sisters, Nora Rami, Joyanne Eram, and Madison Petaway. Madison Petaway is somebody that's actually one of the speakers today. If you can, please check her out. She's the best. So those are the people that I've leaned on.
Thank you. So what is your favorite part of using your uniqueness to fuel your poetry?
So I would like to think, just because to mention Outspoken Bean again, he always says that I'm a very peculiar person. And I think, adding my uniqueness to poems gives people something different. Okay. Scratch that, right? If I'm gonna be honest, I think I view wrestling and poetry almost as the same sort of concept. They're both, performance art. And the things that I like about wrestling is how somebody stands out. You can wrestle as good as you want to. You can know all these holds and all that stuff. But like, if I don't care about you, then I don't care about you. If you don't have anything that's different about you, then like that the 630 you just did off the top rope is almost meaningless. Just as if you write and you have these amazing similes, in my opinion, but like there isn't a story behind it, or there isn't a uniqueness behind it. It's nice, it's pretty to look at, but like, how will I feel about it afterwards? So I try my best to make people think, that was something different. Anytime that I perform, I try my best for that all the time.
Thank you. So my last question for you before I open it up to the audience is, I know that before starting the session, we kind of talked about how in academia, as students, we're kind of wired to write, research papers, and there's a certain type of way and language you have to write things, which can sometimes subdue creativity. So what is your advice to those who are a part of this call? How do you advise them to be creative and to think outside of the box, and to not only think about the structured way of writing and thinking, but to be creative and express themselves and express their feelings and healing and whatnot?
So also, that's such a layered question. I feel like I hope everybody gets that question, because man, that's thank you for all these questions, by the way. These were all absolutely amazing. But I would like to say, so a friend of mine from the University of Houston, he's into acting, and he's taught acting classes. And I remember he had told me this one thing that he did with a student, and he said, hey, who's your favorite actor? He said, Denzel Washington. And he was like, you will never be like Denzel Washington. But also, Denzel Washington will never be like you. And I take that to mean, no matter how well or how highly you value the work of somebody else, you won't be like them, but they will never be like you. And that's so true. No matter how much I value all these people that I write about, well, that that has helped me write, I should always try my best to write on things that I know, write about things I know, write about things that I'm familiar with, because these are things that are me. And if I write about anybody else, then I'm doing a disservice to all other people that will hear this, and I'm doing a disservice to myself. So always be sure to be at the center of what you're writing about. Be sure that you not only do your intentions match your actions or the work that you're doing, but make sure you make sure that whatever you're writing about does actually affect you. I would hate to be a person that is writing about things that does not affect them. And if you are writing about something that doesn't affect you, you're not doing it your due diligence. Okay, can you talk through, thank you for your time. This was the time that you could have used on so many other things. So Mr. Roderick Smith, he asked, can I talk through my creative process? So my creative process, I've been trying to develop a routine, like an actual process, especially after Meta4Houston. Since we would just write out a poem and then, we add things, we take things out. But when I'm just by myself, and nowadays, I think I adapt that, but I mainly just write down my feelings, and then hopefully something comes out of that. But if I can't find anything out of me just vomiting all the words that I possibly can onto a page, then I'll try and return to that route. If not, I will probably take inspiration from certain songs that I like. Maybe write about how did I feel about this song? What is a line in that song that meant a lot to me? Write about why that particular line made me feel that way. So that's my creative process. It's pretty loose.
I have a question. So what makes poetry an interesting and unique mode or way to kind of disseminate public health information, mental health, and all that stuff? And how do you think we can get more people to listen to poetry?
Man, I've been wondering that too, about how we can get more people to listen to poetry, because it's not dead. Like me and Madison, we always talk about this, about how people say, oh, it's a dead art form. Like, no, it's not. It's here, it's alive, it's thriving, like in all cities. But I think what makes it so different in disseminating public health is, or at least in this one facet I know of slam poetry, outside of like reading it in pages and whatnot, like you're seeing this person work this out. You're seeing this person go through the motions in 3 minutes for the most part. You're seeing them start with maybe you're seeing them start out lighthearted and then it descends into, more of a downbeat, downtrodden mood. And maybe they're escaping it, maybe they're not, maybe there are questions still unanswered. And that's what makes it so different. You are seeing in real time somebody work this out in front of everyone, being nakedly honest. And I think that's a big part of, public health, being nakedly honest about what it is, about how do we nurture it and how do we help ourselves. As far as how do we get more people to read poetry, how to consume poetry, I've been wondering about it, because the only times it gets mentioned in media is like as a joke, as like a throwaway gag, like LOL, look at this person doing all, this is a poem, this poem is happening, and I get it, it's funny for the most part, but I don't know, I feel like if people also saw it not only as just literature, but also entertainment, I think that would be a way to get people into it. And plus, for the most part, it's usually only 3 minutes. So I would like to think that it's not something that would hurt somebody's attention span. Sorry for the cop-out answer on how to get people. I've been wondering it too, because you got me at a loss.
And that's very understandable. I feel like over the years, people kind of stopped paying attention to poetry and how I think they've forgotten how deep poetry can be. But the spaces like this that can reintroduce, the public to poetry. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we do Light, to share poetry, to share art, to share, creativity, on a positive light, on things that affect the public. So, if there are any last questions, you can please put them in the chat or turn on your mic and share. If not, then we can go ahead and round out. I'll give people like 30 seconds to see if they want to ask anything or say thank you or anything like that.
Well, so I'll start. I would like to say thank you all. This is my first time doing Light. It's pretty wild that this has only happened twice. Well, this is the second time. Pretty wild about that. And I love to be a part of something so nice and so based in community. I'm glad we're coming together, talking things out, talking about music, I get to talk about wrestling with a bunch of people. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and also you guys can be doing literally anything else. But instead, you guys pulled up here and decided to join me and talk things out with your boy. So thank you guys so very much.
Thank you, Calvin. Calvin, you did a phenomenal job talking about poetry, John Cena, connecting the two, your life story, and music. We just talked about a lot of different things today. So I really hope that everyone was able to gain a lot of knowledge and perspective from Calvin. So thank you all for joining. Have a good rest of the day. Please join other sessions. They are all going to be great.